Welcome to the first episode of Grab and Go Design, a series where I grab a random product from the shelves and elevate them to another level of packaging design. In this video, I'll show you how I redesign a beverage brand that I got from the supermarket. The product that we will be working with today is a hard seltzer drink, citrus mix. So I had a quick research of what the product is. So it's carbonated water mixed with alcohol, and then they add some fruit flavorings to it. So here are the things that I like about this packaging. So the first one is the white background. So I like that they use a white background here because this tells me that this is something lighter than some of the other drinks. So in the shelf, I found this beside like stronger drinks. So I like that it's quite different compared to the other drinks. And also the white background here tells me that it is something clear. Also, this white against the colored areas here go very well. It's easy to tell that this has some fruit flavor to it. And even without the fruit illustration here, you can see it. The use of color make it very easy to extend this to a wider product line, say other flavors or other variants. On the other hand, here are the things that I'd like to include or change in the new packaging design. I think I want to add more emphasis on the alcohol content of this one because I want to communicate clearly that this is not fruit juice in a can. I'm also not sure about the fonts used in this packaging. I think this is Myriad Pro. So if you're a designer like me, you know that this is the default font in Illustrator. I'm not sure if I really like that in the packaging. I think I'd like to explore more font options for this packaging. I think something that has like a heavier weight would be better for this one, so it's easier to read. I also want to work on the wavy design here. The icons here sit well along the curves of the wave. I think the wave design in some areas it's causing some issues, especially on the area where the edges of the line meet. I think we can possibly retain the waves, but let's think of some other ways to go about it. Okay, so for the text at the top, I feel like there are missed opportunities here. Some of the things listed here are great selling points. For example, the zero sugar. I think a lot of consumers like to see that up front. So I think we'll have to move around some of the details here, maybe put that on the main design. I also want to include here elements that would reference the sparkling water. So maybe add some fizz, like bubbles, and also add some textures related to those elements. Overall, there are some great things about this packaging and some room for improvement. And I am very excited to work on the refreshed packaging for this one, so let's head over to Illustrator to start the project. The first thing that I'll do is to list all details for this packaging. And I am adjusting the size based on hierarchy, the bigger ones having more importance. The next thing that I'll do is to get my die lines from Pandora. By the way, full disclosure, this is a paid subscription, but you can use my code to get discounts. So they have die lines for the common variants. So you can see here they have 330 ml, similar to our product. But this is a rather simple die line, so you can just copy this one because it's just a rectangle that wraps around. So let's start with the logo. So the thing about redesigning is you have to consider brand equity. So this is a very established brand, and even though the logo is very different from the rest of the packaging, we will keep it as it is because it has high recognizability and the consumers already know this logo and their brand. So I'll do a 3-layer system for the Illustrator file. We have the die line, the design, and the background layers. And I can turn this on or off if I want to see it without the lines. So we'll be working mainly on these 2 layers here. And also make sure that you are using the CMYK color profile. I'm planning to keep the top part as it is. I think this orange area is perfect and we just have to work on the texts. I'll bring some of the details so we can play around the layout. Okay, and then make sure the background extends to the edges, and this is called the bleed. And I have a video discussing the basics of packaging design, so I'll put a link above if you want to check that. I will move the zero sugar to the main layout to highlight this one. So for this part, I am exploring font options for the text. I've chosen the best 3, and here are the fonts that I'd like to try. So for this area above, I think we can use a font that's a bit wider since we already let go of one of the segments already. I'm just exploring other options for the layout, and I want to put a space here for an illustration to reference the citrus. So part of designing is exploring multiple options and checking which one works. So like this yellow background, for example. So the yellow doesn't seem to go well, and I prefer to stick to the white background. So let's put the details beside the circle. And for the other side, we'll put the alcohol percentage. So for the icon, I want to do a geometric approach. So instead of using two different fruits like that of the original design, I'm using two colors for the segments of the illustration. And of course, I'll add this detail and a leaf to make it more obvious. I want to make the 5 much larger than the percent. I see this a lot in other packaging and I quite like it. So I was thinking of putting these words below the hard seltzer. I think I'll put it back to the original position because I don't want this area to be too crowded. I also tried how it looks when we do white, but I think the black is better. So I was highly inspired by the sunset by the beach kind of vibe. So I'm using this vibrant yellow and orange gradient, but I want the orange to be the dominant color. I kind of want to extend this upwards, and then let's put a white background for the icon. And I will use the shape builder tool to cut this from the rectangle and create a space here. Then let's use the direct selection tool to round the corners. Let's try adding another block to kind of separate this from the rest of the details. So for the text, I also want to try a subtle drop shadow, and then we'll polish this later, of course. So I got these vector files from a stock photo website. Don't be afraid to use stock photos in your design because actually even big companies use it. You just have to be very careful and read through the license, of course. None of this seemed to work, but this is the behind the scenes in doing a packaging design. Sometimes you just have to see it first and edit out the things that don't work. I will also change this to a darker shade of orange. These are important details, but I want it to be lower in terms of priority, so I want it to kind of blend with the background. I also found some stipple brush, so basically this is for texture. I want to add some fizz texture to the design, so I'll just copy this and extend this along this box. And then I'll move this to this area. So I want to add subtle texture to the white background. I found this texture, but I'm not really loving it, and I think it might cause continuity issues when wrapped around. Let's try using wavy lines. So you can do this by going to Effect, then Distort, Zigzag. We'll use the smooth form, and then let's adjust these settings. In this part, I'm showing you some options that I tried for the texts at the bottom. I tried like this box and this curve to make it look like a glass of booze, but decided not to push through and go for more simple options. I found this one in the Adobe Font Foundry. I want this one to be lighter in feel, and I think this font could really work. I decided to use the waves because I think it would create a nice effect with the gradient. So one thing to note here is that this die line is a wraparound. So this area would meet the other side. So I want this to be level, so they are continuous when trimmed here on the trim line. So for the second wave, I think I'll keep it clean, but I will adjust the gradient. And then for the topmost layer, let's add a vertical linear texture. So in this part, I explored multiple texture options for the packaging, but I'm starting to feel like this is texture overload already and we need to let go of these. And then to give some contrast, I will change this area to green. This is still a citrus mix, so I want to include a touch of green to this design. Sometimes we just really have to sit on the design for a while, maybe have a little break or take a shower. One thing to note here is that the details that you put in the design should help unify the overall layout. But in this part, I find them very distracting and I think they compete with the details on the front. I also want to work on the font option for the hard seltzer. I found this font and I feel like it ties well with the logo. Then finally, we are adding a gradient drop shadow. And then I'm using the blend tool to make the shadow very smooth. Here is the redesign packaging that I came up with. This redesign wouldn't be complete without some proper mockups. So here's the design on some aluminum cans. And here's a side-by-side comparison of the original packaging design versus the redesign that we did. I would really love to know your thoughts about the first redesign project that we did for the Grab and Go design series. Did I do well? Would you have done it differently? Or did I completely miss the mark? Let me know in the comment section below. Again, this is the first episode for this series, so if you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe so you can see more design videos in this channel. Thank you so much for staying up to the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one.